sounds completely unbelievable, but is entirely true. I'll go first. When I was 8.
So I was babysitting for the first time this little girl. She's 3 years old. And it was going to be at night because her mom works nights. So I'd be with her till like 2 a.m. And her mom told me, she's not sleeping lately. I don't know what's going on. She won't go in her room. She won't lay down. Whatever you need to do to get her to sleep, just try. I said, all right, we'll figure it out. So it was late and there was no sign of her wanting to go in her room. I said, let's go lay down in your room. You know, it was 11. I think 11:30. So let's go lay down in your room. She goes, no. I said, why? And she goes, the baby's crying. And I said, I have no idea. You know, I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe it was like a TV show she was talking about. And I said, no, let's go lay down in your room. So we went in her room and she goes, the baby's crying. And so at this point, I'm like, what baby? What baby? And she pointed up to the ceiling, at the corner of the ceiling, and she said, right there. He's crying. He's sad. She said, I don't want him to cry. And I was like, I am freaked out. So, first thing that happened. And I said, okay, let's leave. Let's go to your mom's room. So we went to her mom's room. And she said, the tall man's in here. And I, full body goosebumps. I said, what tall man? Where? And she pointed to her closet and she goes, he lives there. Tall man. And I said, we're not staying in here. We're going into the living room. So we sat down in the living room and there's a couch. Behind me is a big window. So I think I had the news on. I don't know what I was watching. She's sitting there and she stood up and looked behind me and screamed. She screamed. And I was so like, I like thought someone was outside. So I looked. I swear to God, I saw the tallest shadow. It was like a shadow figure, tall. And it looked like it just swooped past the window. And it looked like he was wearing a wide-brimmed hat. And I was so freaked out. And she said, Hat Man, as soon as it happened. Hat Man, Hat Man, Hat. And my instinct is to run outside, but I went outside. So I didn't run outside. And so I honestly think I just stayed in the kitchen. I was like in the kitchen. And I was like, your mom's gonna be home soon. I'm just gonna stay here, okay? And the mom got home and I was like, yeah, she's not sleeping. I gotta go. I was so scared. So scared. I never went back. They never asked me to come back. I never went back, and they moved shortly after. We lost contact, so I don't know how they're doing. I hope they're okay. But that was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. Talking about it now gives me tears in my eyes because it just freaks me out so bad.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable, but is entirely true.
So a few months ago now, it was a Friday night and I was fast asleep. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning and I hear the door code start being entered. It's this beeping noise. So I roll over and I say to my husband, Chris, I think someone's trying to break into the house. He runs down the hallway, looks over the stairs at the front door and he calls out, there's no one there. At that point, we hear the front door go keypad deactivated, which means that the code has been entered incorrectly too many times. So he comes back to the bedroom and we look on the app that tracks everything that's happened on the front door. And you can clearly see that someone has entered the code incorrectly 3 times, which shuts it down. So I say, okay, quickly, let's have a look at the security cameras. And we have one of those like Ring doorbells. We get it open. No one has been in our front yard. The sensor lights didn't come on. There was no one there, but someone has definitely tried to enter our keypad incorrectly 3 times and has shut the front door down. Anyway, we try not to think about it too much, get on with our day the next day. You know, these things happen. Then the next night, Saturday night, around the same time, I'm talking about 1 o'clock in the morning, I am fast asleep and I hear my husband's phone ringing on speaker. And I roll over and I say, Chris, who on earth are you calling? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And he gets up his phone. He goes, Annie, I'm not calling anyone. Like, the screen's dead. It was black. he couldn't do anything to it, but it was calling someone on speaker. And it rings and it rings, and it eventually gets to this person's voicemail, and it's, the standard, can't come to the phone right now, leave a message, I'll get back to you. But I'd never heard this person's name before. So I said to my husband, Chris, like, who was that? Like, I've never heard, who is it? And he goes, that's my old boss who died 2 years ago.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
So I had to hop on this trend because I could literally make a whole entire series about all the experiences I have had growing up, especially in the house that I grew up in. But I'll start with one really creepy story that literally gave me chills and still freaks me out to this day. When I was younger, my family had Korean exchange students that lived in our house, and one of the students shared a room with me, so we had a bunk bed, and she took the bottom and I took the top. And during this time, my dad had removed all of the doors to all the rooms in our basement because we were getting new carpet. And so I wanted a little bit more privacy. So for Christmas, my grandma gifted me some door beads, but they didn't come to the floor all the way. They were about a foot off of the floor. And my sister Callie would always come in and just steal my clothes, my makeup, whatever she wanted to use. And I was a pretty light sleeper, so she would slide under the door beads to come in the morning before school and to not wake me up. There was one particular night where my exchange student was visiting her uncle in another state for Thanksgiving. So I was alone in my room. It was nighttime, everybody was in bed, and it was dark, and I heard my door beads. So I looked over and I see what looks like my sister, just like her silhouette, and she's got long, curly hair, and she was crawling on all fours with her hair, and her hair was like hanging in front of her face, and she was crawling on all fours, sliding under the door beads, and I could see the door beads like hitting against her back as she slid under. And once she got under, she like hurried to the end of my bed where the closet was at the foot of my bed. So I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I caught her in the act this time. I'm going to totally tell her that I knew she was stealing my clothes. So I snuck to the edge, to the end of the bunk bed. And I just like, wow, like tried to scare her. And when I looked over the end of my bed, there was nobody there. So I just started screaming, and then my sister ended up running down the hall, and she came in and turned on my light, and she's like, what? And I was just like, you have, and I just freaked out and told her what had happened. But that was one time that was super, super creepy.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
When I was in the fourth grade, I was best friends with this kid in my class, and he would always stay the night with me, like, a lot. And so after several months of this, I was really annoyed about it because we never stayed the night at his house or anything. We always stayed the night at my house, and this was boring for me because I wanted to stay the night at somewhere that wasn't my house. And so after, like, a while of asking him, he would always, like, blow me off. He finally was like, okay, fine, like, you can come stay the night at my house, but if anything weird happens, you can't freak out about it. And that should have been like a sign, but at the time I was like, what? He must mean like his parents get in fights or something. Whatever, it's fine. So we go over there, and it's an old school Victorian style house. And if you saw this house in a movie, you'd be like, man, that house is definitely haunted. But whatever. They give me the tour of the house, and his bedroom was on the opposite side of the house from his parents' room. This is a big house. And the room next to his bedroom, it shared an adjoining wall, was this like big walk-in closet that had like hats and coats and shoes and all sorts of stuff, I guess, that wouldn't fit in their normal closets, all in this room, but it was all really well organized and everything along the walls and hung up and everything. And so that night after dinner, as fourth grade boys are gonna do, we wanted to stay up all night playing video games. So we're sitting there, we're crushing Mountain Dews, we're playing Mortal Kombat 2, having a blast. And it's very late. I don't know what time, 2, 3 in the morning. I don't know. All of a sudden, there is just this like a slam into the wall from that walk-in closet room. I was just something slams into the wall, and I look over at him like, and he just looks annoyed. Okay. And he's like, I told you if you were going to come stay here, if anything weird happened, like you can't freak out. You told me. So I'm trying to power through, I'm trying to be a good friend. So I'm like, all right, man, I'm not going to freak out. So a few minutes go by. We're still playing our game. Something else slams into that wall, super loud. Again, I look over at him like, what's going on here? And he's like, dude, I told you. So it happens again, and he's like, man, I'll show you in a little bit. And so we keep playing, but I'm getting really weirded out. And then all of a sudden, I can't describe it in any way other than it sounded like all of a sudden there was like a tornado in that room. Okay, like it sounds like stuff is slamming into the walls. They're scratching against the walls. Like stuff is going crazy. And this goes on for several minutes, okay? And at this point, I'm not doing great, okay? I'm sitting there trying to tough through it, but like I'm not doing a great job. Anyway, this goes on for several minutes, and finally it stops. It just abruptly stops. And then several minutes go by, and then he's like, all right, I told you I'd show you, so like come look. So we get up, we go to this room. I'm freaking out. He opens the door. Everything in this room, in this walk-in closet, is like in the middle of the floor. Everything is torn off the hangers, everything, all of it's piled up. It's absolutely insane. And he's like, oh, this happens every once in a while, and it'll all be back on the hangers. Everything will be fine in the morning.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
All right, I've got another one. So when I was in like the first or second grade, I have an older sister, and she is 1 year older than me. So she was in like the second or the third grade. And we were out at my grandpa's house in super deep rural East Texas. No one was there except me, my mom, my sister, and my grandpa. And my grandpa was inside, and my grandpa's house has this like ancient swing set in his backyard. My sister was on the swing, and my mom and I think we were doing something on the other side of the house. And then it was getting toward evening time, and so we were walking over to my sister, and we could hear my sister like laughing, like talking to somebody, which is weird because nobody else is there. And so we walk around the side of the house, and I remember this very distinctly. We walk around the side of the house, and my sister's on this swing, and she's laughing, she's cutting up, she's having a great time. She's talking, having a conversation, and there's no one there. And she is being pushed in this swing by nobody. And like not like she wasn't like doing the thing like in a swing where you can like pump into it, you can like kick your legs and kind of like swing yourself forward. No, she's not kicking her legs or anything. We stood there for a couple of minutes like watching her as she would like swing back and then swing forward like really fast, not like scary fast or anything, but just like if someone was pushing her in the swing. And she's having a great time and she's swinging. And I remember like even at like 6 or 7, I understood like that I didn't really understand what I was seeing. Like, this is weird. And I remember like looking up at my mom at one point, and my mom like looks down at me like we share this like unspoken like little moment of like, are you seeing this kind of thing? And this goes on for a couple minutes. I don't think my mom knew what to do, so we're just kind of standing there because I think both of us were like trying to process this. And then after a couple minutes, my mom's finally like, Yasha, like my sister's name is Yasha, and she was like, Yasha, like time for dinner. And so Yasha's like, okay. And then she kind of, slows down on the swing and then hops off the swing and fully like turns to someone who is not there and is like, bye, like blah, 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 like said something to her and then runs over to us. And I remember to this day, like we went to walk inside the house and my mom was like, Yasha, who was pushing you in that swing? And my sister looked at her like she had just asked the dumbest question and was like, that little girl. And then just turned and like walked in the house. And to this day, I'm like, I don't know how to explain that. I don't. One of the scariest things that ever happened to me happened when I was about 18 or 19. Me and 3 of my buddies had rented this really rundown house. And it wasn't in a terrible neighborhood, wasn't in a great neighborhood, but like half the wiring of this house didn't work, including the wiring to the porch light. If you tried to look out of the peephole at night, you just couldn't see anything. Okay, and that's going to be relevant here in a minute. So one night we're all hanging out. One of the roommates isn't there, so 3 of us are there on the couch watching Empire Strikes Back. And how the house worked is as soon as you walked into the front door, you were in the living room. So we're right there. And we hear like the sounds of someone walking up to the door. Like you could hear them coming up the stairs. There were like 2 or 3 stairs. And there was like the cement porch on the front of the house. And they didn't knock or anything. They just tried to open the door, and we heard like the knob turn. And so all of us kind of look at each other like, are we expecting anybody, you know? And it's like, no. So my roommate's like, who is it? And this guy answers, and he's like, hey, it's me, let me in. And so we're of course like, who? You know? And he again doesn't identify himself, and he's like, it's me, like just open up. So we're like, what is going on? So we get up, my roommate flips the light on, and then because we couldn't look out of the peephole, he starts twisting the blinds to open the blinds up. And this guy steps into view. Like, he actually steps over in front of the window. And immediately, we know that we don't know this guy. We're like 18, 19-year-old, like, nerds. This dude is easily 10, 15 years older than us and is, like, jacked. Like, I mean, like, he looks like he lived at the gym. He is built Ford tough, okay? And immediately, he gets this huge smile on his face when he sees us. And he's just like, hey, open the door. And we're all like, dude, we don't know you. Like, who are you? You know, like, why are you trying to come in? Like, we don't know you. And he just keeps saying it, like, just open up. Why don't y'all just open up? And he starts doing this thing with his fingers. Like, he starts, like, hitting the glass on these windows with his fingers, all 5 fingers at once. Like, he wasn't just, like, tapping on the glass or anything. He was, like, smacking the glass, like, with his fingers. Like, come on, guys, like, open up. Smiling the whole time, like this entire time. Like, hey, guys, just, like, open up. And we're all like, dude, we don't know you. Like, you need to leave. Like, please leave. We do not know you. We're not going to open up, blah, blah, blah. Finally, my roommate's like, I'm going to call the cops. And as soon as he says this guy, his smile disappears. And he just slaps, like, not the window pane, but, like, slaps, like, the frame. So I think that was the only thing preventing the glass from breaking. He, like, slapped it. And then he immediately went back to smiling. And he's like, no, y'all don't want to do that. Just open the door. Just open up. And we're all like, I'm finally like freaking out, and I'm from like rural East Texas. So I run into my room, and I had a pump action 12 gauge, and I grabbed it, and I came out and pointed at him. And he's like, hey, we don't have to do all that. I'll be back later. And he just walks off. And my roommate did end up calling the cops, and they were basically like, it sounded like he thought that y'all were somebody else, and they did absolutely nothing about it.